Yay!
All right.
We are officially live.
We are officially live.
Hi.
Hello.
So let's begin.
Sure.
Um, uh, just just for my own sake, because it's a bit of a routine. I just want to do it the way I would normally do it if there are people around anyway. So bear
Mhm.
with me. So look, thanks for doing this. The reason I wanted to get you on for this live session is this is about a community. Yes, I am an ad person, and we I definitely have a lot more contacts, and I'm interested in a lot of topics a lot of people in the ad industry have within different disciplines. Creative, definitely, strategy, of course. I'm trying to get Anka from a creative services point of view. She started a new job, so she needs about a month just to settle in. So cool. By the way, Brian gives his love. I forgot to tell you that. Um, so yeah, representation is important, and production is very much the backbone of a lot of how we get things done.
Mhm.
I know things have changed a little bit, but that's also why it's important for us to have this conversation to find out the impact, certainly what's happening on production
Mhm.
side, but also how uh, it's most important to find out what's happening on in your own world in isolation from the other industries that support each other, like advertising, stuff like that. I know you have some opinions on that. We're going to get into it. But it's also
Yep.
important so that when people within the ad community see it, they get to understand a little bit more what's happening behind the scenes, because we don't always cross that threshold, and we don't necessarily talk with each other. Again, another reason why I think this is very important.
Mhm.
Having said that, the first topic I want to talk about is in the news.
Mhm.
So there's no secret. We kind of know what we're gonna get into, but for this particular topic, I normally don't let people. I put in for the notes. You've seen the notes. It goes. It can be about AI, but then as we were talking, it got me thinking. You know what? If there is one category of people in our expanded industries that should be able to talk about the impact of it,
Mhm.
it's got to be production, because
Definitely.
uh, it's because AI is a tool. Let's be honest, more than anything else, and it's a tool that has a direct impact on a lot of stuff that production people are doing.
Mhm.
So, with that in mind, we will talk about AI. But so the question is this: so the impact of AI affects all complementary industries, like I mentioned, but it affects production side more directly in terms of impact. Can
Mhm.
you speak to the industry reaction in terms of being forced to go with the changes that
Mhm.
AI is kind of ramming down our throat a little bit? So
Mhm.
that's more holistically what's happening within production as an industry, but then the nitty gritty of those client relationships on how that AI conversation is. I mean, you can expand it how you want to, but is it a pivot? Is it a sidestep? Are we working together? Are they bypassing altogether? So top view and more macro view as well.
Okay, sure. So I remember when ChatGPT was first got released a few years ago. I was maybe like 2 years ago, because all the rage, everybody's like, "Hey, AI it's coming up, blah blah blah." And I remember talking with my business partner, and we were looking at this, and I remember being like, "Okay, so what do we do with this? Like, how is this going to affect us?" And I'm a bit of an optimist and a skeptic in a way, where I'll be like, you know what, it's nothing. Everybody's making a bigger deal about this than it really is. It's fine. It's fine. Whereas my business partner at the time, she's a little bit more of a think ahead, and really want to control. Not She just wants to plan ahead and just be ready and prepared, and probably a bit more overly cautious. She's like, I think we've got maybe two and a half good years kind of left in our belt for before things are officially like ready and affecting the production industry in its full force.
And this
Um,
was a conversation 2 years ago as well. So
this
we're
was
kind of in the now
Yes,
of them.
exactly. So this is the now of that. This
Yeah.
was two years ago, and of course things started happening a lot sooner. It definitely, and this is the thing, you didn't really want it. I remember when we were talking earlier this week, when you were like, yeah, listen, can we just not talk about AI? And the more I was thinking about this, the more I was like, but it's really difficult not to. Like, it's actually really difficult not to. I was kind of looking around, like, what are we talking about right now? Okay, the reality is that a lot of people that work in production are in the gig economy. So yes, you've got production companies, you've got the agencies, but you have a lot of people in the gig economy as a result. And I'm seeing that a lot of people are showing they're open to work. They're like, hey, just letting you know if you've got anything coming up. I've got time. Think of me. Remember, I'm around, still around if you've got anything coming up. So there's that. There's that direct effect on the industry. That amongst a few other things, obviously, but that has been, I think, a really big thing that we've noticed. The other thing that I've noticed as well is you've got clients, obviously, who we all know in the ad industry. It's all about the next big shiny thing, like let's just try it for the sake of, not because it's gonna necessarily resonate, create a message that resonates or create a thing. It's just like let's just try it. We want to try it for the sake of the next shiny thing.
It's a keeping up with the Joneses mentality as well, right?
Exactly. I mean, it was the same thing with VR and AR and all of that when that first came out. Is the same with NFTs and all of that when that first came out as well. So it's normal. But I think now there's that debate of is it a tool that people use in their workflow? And I think that there's some people have started doing that. I think that everybody's kind of trying to make the most of using it as a tool, to be in the know, to make sure that we're up to date and we're not just going to try and ignore this thing that's happening. But then you also have the reality that with how quickly things are evolving, it is replacing some of the ways that people want to explore creating things. So you either are integrating it into your workflow as a production company, as an agency or whatnot, or you are sort of being replaced, so to speak. And
so just 1 second. So the whole conversation of being used as a tool versus it's bigger than that. I think it's very natural for people in the agency, because the agency people they're not doing the final execution of things. They're the facilitator of the ideas in a way. And so AI if you're looking at it the right way, you can see it as a tool. This is a tool that's going to get me from point A to point B faster.
100%.
But for production, it's the impact of AI is closer. You guys have a closer relationship, because again, when you're one step removed as a creative in an agency or a studio in an agency, they are like, oh, I can use this to empower the thing I'm doing. But the thing we are doing, comes down to what you guys as a production company bring us, which means that threat, if that's the word to use, is closer. And like you said, you were talking to your boss a couple of years ago. That's why you're like, we have to deal with it. We can't bury our head in the sand, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So I think I know that one of the reactions to this happening to AI and in a greater picture of things as well has been how do we keep production a bit more focused, at least here in Singapore? How do we keep it active? And I mean, I know that the Singapore government's already investing a lot in this AI side of things, but anyways, specifically in the production side of things, the way that it's also impacted is people are having to reskill in certain areas. And one of the investments that the government has done is to invest in virtual productions. And that's a new area specifically that people are then can be reskilled while staying within the scope of production. But we're talking quite a lot of quite a high number of investment. Like it's $50 million for these virtual production studios, and also building this ecosystem as well to allow everybody that's working in that space, if they want to be able to learn those skills and be able to use that that space and still keep production alive in that way. Yeah.
Can you expand on what it means to have a virtual production studio? I mean, I can put the story together in my head, but what is it exactly that's complementary to what you're already doing?
So virtual productions is essentially, if anyone saw The Mandalorian, that's when it all kind of started. That's when people started hearing more about it. It's a giant LED screen of sorts that is shaped. So it can be rounded, curved. It has stuff on the ceiling all the way through to the floor, so you can really create a 360 environment. Essentially, my understanding of it is that it almost kind of brings the VFX and the all of the animation and the 3D and all of that to before rather than afterwards. So you've got the live set and the live visuals of backgrounds, backdrop, ceilings, everything all set in the studio. And then you've got these huge cameras and rigs and whatnot, and 3D animations, everything all tracked, and you can film the scene all in one place, essentially.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I remember The Mandalorian, that technology, when it came out, there was a lot of talk about it. It was probably about 2-3 years ago, right? This would have been when the first season came out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like that's the kind of stuff that you expect Hollywood with the unlimited budgets to be investing in, and I get why they would do that. And I also get how Singapore, being a nation that's always trying to push the boundaries of what can be done, in terms of technology and things like that, they would push for. I'm assuming you meant things like they're putting forward grants and they're encouraging people to get into that. But isn't that so? I also understand how, from a governmental point of view, they're pushing for that. But how do you bridge that gap between that happening? I think you mentioned $50 million type of investment. How is that a tangible? Is there a tangible relationship between what's happening with that in a Singapore local level, from an aspirational point of view, to what you within the company that you're in? How do you take from that? Is that something? Is that a attainable goal? Because these are small production companies; they can't all be going for that.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of the irony I find. I think virtual productions are amazing and very impressive, and it's very cool, and kudos to the government for investing in that side of things. But we're not really talking about how it relates back. It's not necessarily accessible to the average production company or the average, let's say, TV commercial production that you're going to be doing. Neither is it really answering to the type of content that we're seeing becoming more and more in demand, or more requested, or more consumed by people in the production space, or in the consumer space, in the ad space, that kind of thing.
The content space in general.
The content space, yeah. The content space, in my opinion, and as we can see, is going to be, short, simple. We all know budgets are kind of going down rather than up, and virtual productions are quite, expensive. So it feels like it's something that is a potential band-aid. Like, look, let's expand our production capabilities. Let's invest in this. A select few can reskill to learn how to work in production in that space, but it's not necessarily answering the need of where we're at right now with how AI is affecting, what level of productions AI is affecting right now. Like, it's going to be like that, actually, probably even for Hollywood films. Like, James Cameron was saying that he wants to start using AI to finish off some of his scenes.
Yep. In fact, 2 days ago, I read there was a bit of controversy. The Academy Awards had made it official that you can use AI for films that will be considered for Oscars moving forward. So
Right. Yeah.
it's hard to run away from that.
It's very hard to run away from that. So yes, I think you've got this side of production and creation and creators that is being affected by AI, whereas you can use it as a tool, or some elements of what your role is could potentially be replaced. Let's be real. And then you've got massive investments in virtual productions, and you've got big filmmakers that are saying they're going to start using AI even in their own big massive productions. So it's going to affect that side of things as well. So in my day-to-day, in my circle, I have been interacting with a lot of people who are starting to wonder, like, okay, maybe let's see how much longer I can keep this up, or I can stick in this space. Like, maybe we should reskill in something else. Maybe I should take up something else that's complementary to what I'm doing, or something that is completely unrelated to this. So it's a tricky time to be in production right now for quite a few reasons.
I think for most of the creative community, in many sense.
Yeah.
So look, these conversations are going to be happening at a national level in your case, and at an industry level in the Hollywood conversation. But what are you hearing from your circle of clients, in the sense that as much as people within your industry have to be aware of the changes that are happening, and you've got to do something about it, whether it's running 100 miles an hour or not. There's got to be some sort of movement on that. But as we understand with clients, whether it's direct clients or advertising agency clients, you choose who you want to answer for. But how are you finding your direct clients reacting to it? Are they putting pressure on production companies like yourselves or others in general to say, hey, what are you doing about it? Like, I need to have that next level of efficiency. Are you seeing that? And if you are having those conversations, are they largely positive? Or I don't know if it's positive or negative, but is it like, you can do this, you can bring that stuff in, or if you don't do this, I'm going the other way? Which one or both is happening?
It hasn't been so ultimatumy. It has been a bit I can speak for some of the direct clients that we've had, is there's been a curiosity and a want to explore it. Like, how can we bring this in? Is there something that we can do with this? What's your take on it? Can we try and come up with an idea that integrates some of these elements in? In terms of workflow, they haven't been monitoring what happens behind the scenes. I think if they're asking, if they're thinking about efficiencies, if we go, hey, we can do it more efficiently, but it hasn't been, I think one of the fears or one of the worries has been that if you become too efficient, then they'll be like, well, AI can do it, and therefore you don't need that much time. You don't need those tools. If you have those tools, you don't need as much time, because it'll make the process, it will simplify the process, make it more efficient. But so far, knock on wood, we haven't had anyone that's come and said that, like, well, if you weren't using this, we wouldn't have to pay you so much. Like, we haven't had this conversation yet.
So I guess, maybe I framed it incorrect. I didn't necessarily mean it was like a gun to your head kind of conversation. I was just thinking, so let's say if it was an agency, I can imagine an agency going to CV. We keep brand names out of the calls. Mm-hmm. So your company, for example, they come to CV and they go, hey, Esther, we all know that this is coming. Are you integrating some things into it? Or let's say if it's an agency, they go, hey, we saw this, that's happening at production level. We've shared this idea with our client. They really like it. And basically the agency is shopping it around. So they come to you, goes, we want to be able to do this. Are you finding it happening one way or the other? Are they, there's no ramming down the throat of it in any way? Because it's one thing that you guys are taking initiative, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But no complementary industries are like, here you go, here's the piece of paper. That's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had some requests from clients who have said, "Hey, there's this fun thing we want to try. Can you have a look and see how we could try and do this thing and integrate this this technology or this AI tool or this AI visual or whatnot into the process?" And in the end, it was like, well, you explore it. You're like, okay, well, if you really want to try it, let's give it a go. Let's see how it works. And at the end of the day, if it's not as efficient or if it's not giving you the results that you were after trying a few times, and we all know it's still in those kinds of stages, then they weren't like 100% tied to the idea. And so they were open to going, you know what, if we need to forego this because the current way of doing things without it is still working, then all right, fine, let's do that. So there's been a request. We've tried. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and but there hasn't been any that's like, it has to be. Let's really try and explore. Like, if we can explore it together, if it works, let's take it a step further, and if it doesn't, let's move on and do something else that will meet what you guys need, type thing.
Someone has made a comment. So things are still based on a track record. I don't know if that means something that I'm not understanding, or could you please perhaps elaborate on that while we continue our conversation? Thank you. This is awesome.
Hi,
so, hi, Audrey. Okay, so
I think
but I'm going to take something.
I think what you mean by track record, if things are still based on track record, yeah. I think they want to know that it's going to work. They don't want to, sometimes they're willing to like, okay, let's go and try and push a few things, few iterations and see how far we can push it. But if there's no track record on being like, yes, this is 100% going to work, then they're willing to kind of go, you know what, no, never mind, let's not. I think, yeah. It's still based on tried and tested and being able to get the consistency. I mean, that's then going super, let's go straight into the pros and cons of using AI and visuals and creative and all of that. But essentially, the industry is always a bit risk averse. Like, they want to try it and push things until they're like, oh no, this might backfire. Then
I think that is actually the reason. So I understand what you and Audrey are talking about, and I absolutely get that. But I also never underestimate ad agencies trying to do something that props them up in a good light with clients or even at awards level. So I imagine that poking the production company probably happens a lot from the ad agency. That's why I mentioned it. But anyway, I want to move on from the AI conversation. But one last thing then, since the word AI is in this topic, a lot of the times when I think of tools within the production side and using AI, I'm looking at the more specialized AI tools. The one that comes to mind that I think is relevant to what I'm also trying to talk about is I've seen, I think we've all seen videos. I personally haven't used it, but I've seen demos of an AI which, when you tell it to write a song a certain way with a certain kind of flavor, it gives those things, whether you call that tried or tested or not. I imagine those are easily accessible AI tools that can directly slot into a production process. Or do you think people are still risk averse in even using that? Because that's very cost effective. Or am I mistaken on that?
I haven't used it for music. I haven't used it for voiceover, but I know that I've heard of people that have done it. Like, I've got some friends that have tried it. I know some clients, actually I've had some voiceover friends that have lost loads of work because because of going in that direction. Music wise though, I haven't, it'd be kind of interesting to see if, you know, a lot of the brands that use jingles, if they would have tried to go and come up with a jingle using AI. But I personally haven't. It would be probably cost effective, but I haven't come across anybody using it yet from an ad perspective. Yeah.
Okay. Good. And it sounds like the people in your fraternity, coming back to the conversation of that pressure to incorporate AI when it's not battle tested, that's not really happening. Everyone is kind of going at their own pace, but they're also planning for the big surge of changes coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's go on to the next topic, which I was trying to take a bit of a break. We talked very serious AI stuff, and so this is a bit more informal topic. And for this topic, I mean, obviously, I know a little bit about you, and and besides your production side of things, what your passions are connected to. You are in the industry of storytelling in many ways, and people who are in the industry of storytelling, they read, they consume a lot of interesting content, if not purely for the art of it, but there is that storytelling aspect of it. Now, one step removed from that, Esther, I know that you have a passion that is connected to storytelling, but it's a little bit more serious and less commercial. And I would like you to talk a little bit about that, how Esther is bringing that understanding of her day job into the human rights kind of the human rights interest and the efforts that you're making.
Yeah, 100%. I think as part of the journey that I've been on, working in advertising space, I think right now is this time where I want to try and bring the good, bring the passion, bring the impact into the work that I'm doing, into the everyday. So a lot of the events, a lot of the content, a lot of the things that I've been reading about, seeing about, the people that I've been meeting, reaching out with, has been in the sustainability space and in the climate space. Actually, Audrey, who was just on, she's a really great sustainability speaker and advocate. And I think that's where that's kind of where I have been wanting to do a lot more work in. I have had the opportunity to do to work in on some projects that you would consider, sustainability storytelling, or some working with some humanitarian organizations on some campaigns and things like that. So I want to definitely keep working on that. But I think some of the challenges right now, or the things that I've been thinking about, is in the sustainability space, that greenwashing versus green hushing versus everything that space that we've been coming out of from the last few years. So just a little context is that sustainability storytelling, or talking about sustainability, became a bit of a fad a few years back. And I think a lot of people
do you mean from a commercial level, or in everywhere?
From a commercial level, in the sense of, like, from a corporate standpoint, from a corporate point of view, it kind of started moving away from being a CSR project to a marketing project. So it started being more about people highlighting the things that they were doing, the products that they were doing, and by people I mean corporates, I mean big corporations. And so we got a series of very, very exaggerated claims that were made. So one of the examples I was sharing with you a few days ago was about a certain brand that was saying, hey, we're trying to reduce our plastic use, and we want to put some new products on the shelves that are made of sustainable materials. And so they had what looked like was some kind of cardboard packaging, but you had the cardboard packaging, which was actually just covering up a plastic bottle. So you had this sort of like, look, we're trying to be green. And I mean, this is just one of many, many, many examples. And obviously, people aren't stupid, and started calling them out, calling out a lot of different organizations. And then came the whole green hushing movement, which was then nobody wanted to talk about anything that they were doing because they didn't want to have any backlash. There's also new regulations in Europe that started coming into play. Here in Asia, those regulations are still very slack, so you still don't have a lot of legislation against greenwashing, but you've got a lot of public call outs or public shaming about it, kind of thing. So anyways, nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about their sustainability journey, or they talk about it in a certain way. And so right now the journey that I've been on is to look at how we can revive this side of things. How can we talk? It's a very important topic, with the climate crisis that we're in, and working in the advertising space in itself is a bit of a paradox when you look at the climate crisis that's happening. Is you're helping companies, organizations sell products and services to people, and to people that may need it. Great, they need it, awesome. But if they are just sell more for the sake of it, then it ends up being a bit of a cognitive dissonance for me personally anyway, of I'm working in this space that is about selling more, and what I'm seeing in the world isn't reflecting that. Like, people should not be buying more, they should be buying less. And therefore, that's where this whole, what I want to focus on in my storytelling journey and my storytelling work, and specifically in the climate space, to kind of go, okay, how can we make it cool again? How can we reach people in ways that is relatable and is interesting to them? What's that sweet spot? What's the right way to approach this topic so that people will learn more about it, be aware of it, be engaged, without feeling like they're being isolated or judged, or that it doesn't affect me. So there's that element of finding that sweet spot and wanting to focus my storytelling work in that space.
Okay, it's definitely a noble journey, and I think we all wish we could do more in that space, I guess. So certainly, I wish you well. I know we've talked a little about how, and again, I guess this comes back to the ad industry and how things have become so fragmented that you mentioned at the top of the hour how budgets were dwindling anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and when budgets are dwindling, production companies have to look elsewhere, which is why you get more foot in the door with things like content such as documentary filmmaking, whether it's based on an environmental impact issue or not. So it kind of it brings you in naturally. I think the business has been going that way in many ways. You mentioned how the fad CSR movement of the ad agency days, which kind of got that ball rolling until it became, I don't even want to use these terms, but it wasn't a shiny thing anymore. So they just kind of moved on to the next milestone. Do you think that type of storytelling still has room within the marketing world anymore, or you think you're noticing that clients in general, everything from your Unilever PNGs down to your local company that is doing something for Environmental Month or Environmental Week, are you seeing that coming back anytime soon, or is that pretty much, they're going on to new things?
I think that it feels like they're moving on to new things. But the truth of the matter is that it's still something that people need to talk about. It's still something that people need to hear about. It's still something that, it's not going away. It's not a problem it's not an issue that's going away. And I think that's where a lot of conversations that I've been having with, my circle of friends or people that work in that space is, how do we have those conversations again? How do we say, hey guys, corporations, clients, brands, agencies, we need to have these conversations. How can we work? How can we bring that back in? And the way that things have been going, there's a lot of changes happening in the western part of the world, with a lot of backlash on the, woke speak, or there's a lot of anti-DEI talk, and let's forget all of these environmental protection laws, and let's dig, let's cut down trees, blah, 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 right? So as a result, that conversation, interestingly, has come up here, where they're like, okay, what's happening over there? What should we do about that here? Should we follow them? Or since we're completely separate, should we just actually continue to talk about it the way that we want to? And should we separate ourselves from that? Or should we say, actually, let's just not mention the word sustainability? Maybe we don't mention the word sustainability because maybe that'll push people away. Maybe we need to bring it in a different way. And the reason why I say this as well is there was a study that was done in the UK a couple of years ago, and they wanted to find out how people are reacting to sustainability messaging. And so they didn't want to just look at people that were already bought into it, right? You've got that sweet spot. You've got people that are already bought into it. You don't need to reach them. People that are completely, I don't believe it, it's a hoax, I'm out, kind of thing. You don't need to reach them. You're not going to change their mind. But there's a bunch of people in the middle that could go either way, depending on what they see, what their experience is, where they live, and whatnot. So they decided to go outside of the urban areas, and they went to rural areas in the UK to talk to different people from different communities. And some of them were saying, when you talk about sustainability, it makes it seem like it's too activist. And I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I'm not an activist, so don't talk to me about sustainability that way. Or, but then that didn't mean that they didn't care about it. Actually, they were really worried about how having certain companies that are extracting resources from around their neighborhood, how that would affect their water, how that would affect their farms and things like that. So they did care, but they just didn't want to be talked to in that way. So I think that, to your question of, has it gone away? I think that it's gone away because people don't know how to bring it back, or what's the right way to bring it back.
Right, and I don't want to contribute too much to this particular topic because I don't know enough about it, but I understand the plight that you're seeing happening and getting worse over time. I guess I'm always still coming back to that relationship between let's say marketing companies, ad agencies, media companies, and production companies. There was a time when a lot of those things were happening. Yes, based on the interest that clients had, they had money to spend on it. It was like, this is the green initiative part of our business, even though we're selling poison in a bottle, whatever it might be. But there was a fiscal reason to push it, yeah. And as you're citing, those things have gone. The issues have not gone, and they're important. And it's always my belief that ad agencies will cling to a movement or a purpose if they can see themselves getting something from it. I know it sounds like a shitty thing to say, but that is the business of marketing and advertising. So having said that, what you are seeing as a declining interest in, I'm going to call it CSR just to make it easier for now, in CSR, sustainability, right? Sustainability investment. It's because the money funnel from the ad agency vis-a-vis the clients are not feeding it anymore. But then you have this groundswell of storytellers, production companies who still have that story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a matter of getting funding from other places? And what's going to happen is when you do that, they're going to look again. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of how it is.
Mm-hmm.
You
No,
know,
it's true. You're absolutely right. It's a question of, okay, well, those stories need to be told. So how are you going to tell them? How are you going to find them? Actually, they're everywhere. It's just about, finding the right people to work with and everything. But 100%, you got to find a way to fund them differently. So I don't know. You collaborate with creators who have a passion, or you collaborate with other organizations, or you build a new business model potentially where you, as a production company that's usually relied on advertise or like on clients, and you kind of go, hey client, give me a brief, I'll answer it, and therefore you pay me to do it. You come up with your own, you start working a little bit more like a TV production format business model. Here's an idea, a story that we want to do. Who could we partner with to tell that story? How much money do we need? We go and approach these people to then fund it. That becomes a completely different process, a lot more time consuming, potentially. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm open
I
to
think
giving that
it's a
a
matter
try.
of going sour from one area that used to fund these things, and now there isn't anymore. So maybe it might be a longer way of doing it, but I assure you, coming from that agency world and client side, if you give them enough of a carrot that they see is happening at the level at the production level, people will be interested. It's no different than the early conversation about the AI thing. When a client comes to you and goes, "Hey, look, I saw this," you just have to create the this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your
Yeah.
story can kind of come through a little bit. Anyway, I want to move on to back to a little bit more connected to production companies, but I wish you well more with that stuff. One-on-one, offline, we should talk a little bit more about that. I'd love to see how I can help in some ways. Okay, so the next conversation is going to be about our community. Now, this is a big one. So this is always, so when I say our community, when I initially wrote these topics, they were predominantly for the advertising industry, but of course, production industry is very much a big part of, has a very big community, and you've been there in 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, in Singapore. So you've got a very big community of production companies out there. So within your community, what I would like to ask is, and this is, we're seeing it on ad agency side in terms of, there was a time when the big multinational companies were the big kids, the big boys, and you couldn't push them around. But then you always had these boutique agencies, and they did small stuff. They got a smaller piece of the pie. Everyone is within a market like Singapore. It's harmonious. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's the creative director in New York a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, and he was saying the big agencies in New York are so big. When the little guys come in, it doesn't really make a huge dent, so they kind of ignore each other. Things are changing there now. Things are changing in Singapore and Southeast Asia as well. But in relation to production companies, in the way that nothing is created out of a vacuum, you can have smaller agencies because bigger agencies are breaking down.
Yeah.
There's got to be a similar thing happening from a production company point of view. Production companies were these big, fully sustainable, I don't know what your version of 360 is, like a 360 offering of what you can do, like a full suite.
Yeah.
That's no longer the case.
Yeah.
So there's fragmentation happening in your business as well, as probably a ripple effect of what's happening to us or has happened to us. So can you speak to the fragmentation of production companies as a reaction to the market needs? Have there been pros and cons? Because I think through you know, there's got to be some good things that come out of these issues, the situations, and then bring it back a little bit to your gig economy rules, because gig economy rules have become that the blueprint to how these things are being done, and it feels like it's meshing at that right moment. There's that confluence happening there. So what are the pros and cons? You're seeing fragmentation, yes or no? Is there a good? Is there bad within the
Yeah,
production system?
yeah. I mean, 100% fragmentation. I mean, being in production itself, it's it's a hugely gig economy kind of space to begin with. Singapore is also relatively small, but a lot of production companies in Singapore don't just work for Singapore brands, they work for regional and whatnot. I remember when I first came to Singapore, there were just a few of us. I mean, there's some, I mean, and there were less than there are now. Let's just put it that way when I came to Singapore. And that has definitely been, you know, it's shown itself in I'm a producer and I'm a creative and we're just gonna join forces and form our production company. I was working at this production company or I was working at this agency and I think I can do it better. I don't need this big uh, system. I don't need this big organization. I can do it myself.
I know
So
some
you've got,
friends.
huh?
I know some creative friends who've done it.
Yeah,
Ex-agency
exactly.
friends have done it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They just go, you know what? I'll go and do it on my own. And that's been the same case in production as well, where you've seen a lot of smaller production companies pop up. I mean, there's so many more of them now than there were before. And from the agency side as well, I've had some creatives that have done that too, and in different areas. And the thing that happens is then that you become a solopreneur, you become your own business owner, and the tendency often is to feel like you need to do everything. You need to do everything well, because now you're not part of a bigger system where you have just one role. You do have one role, but like we've said before, production doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in relation to a lot of other things, a lot of other steps, a lot of conversations, a lot of processes, strategy. What are we trying to do here? Who are we trying to reach? What product? You know, all these things. So so especially in production, I feel like not just in production, the creative space and production being one area of that. The tendency as a business is to then go, well, I need to try and be an expert in everything. But I don't actually think that that's the right approach. I'm just saying that that's a tendency that I think a lot of people will start to feel.
Is it harming? Is it harming the game?
I think you can probably only bullshit so far. I mean, you can fake it till you make it, but until, you know, in production, you also have a way of, you know, if a client asks you to do something, you always figure it out. You know, you kind of go like, yep, we can. If I can't, I'll find somebody else who can. But as a solopreneur, you often do feel like you need to kind of up your game and do many things really, really well. I think what's one of the answers to that, or that I've found, because that is something that I have thought about quite a lot, is what is that additional thing that I need to do really well, and the realization of I can't do everything. So kind of come a bit 360, where I've gone through the process of I need to do everything, I need to do this well, I need to do that, I need to do that, and kind of come back and say, no, actually, I just need to find people to partner with, to build that collective again, to be able to do all of those little things, all of those steps, those important steps where production fits in, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, which is the irony of it all, isn't it? Because we've all kind of gone, we're coming up from this big, you know, like you said, full service 360 space, to try and go, this is the one good thing I'm good for. But sometimes you go, but I gotta diversify. It's hard in production. I gotta do more than one thing well. I gotta try and do more. And at the end of the day, you go, actually, we are stronger together. But as a result of that, I think the pros to this is to a lot. Anyway, that's one of the pros that has come from me. I can won't speak for every single other person that's gone solo, but a few people that I've been speaking with as well, is that kind of freedom of time and being a bit more intentional, and the work-life balance, and choosing how you work, who you get to choose who you work with. So that in itself has been quite a nice add-on, nice benefit of going, of this result of being in a gig economy, or running your own thing that you can expand on. So pros and cons on both sides of that, yeah.
One thing I would say about production companies, which is very different than certainly multinational agencies, not to say that there aren't behemoth-sized production companies. I haven't personally worked with a lot of them in Singapore. But the one thing I've noticed with the typical production companies that ad agencies use for commercials and content, things like that, is it's inevitable that the crew that come on the day, you've seen them before. There was always there's a core team
yeah.
of what always makes a production company strong, but then you have these other arms that come into play, and they are usually contractors. The concept of having contractors to build the strength of a production company is quite very much, at least in Singapore, it's in the DNA, and also in New Zealand. I remember it's more or less the same. And ad agencies aren't like that. So that makes it even more ironic, because that movement of the shakeup happening at ad agencies, which was influencing the bottom line of production companies, broke the Lego blocks a little bit, but then eventually it's coming back in. But it was always going to do that, because you guys are always used to gathering from a community point of view, right?
Yeah, it's kind of the nature of production itself. There's so many different roles that need to come together to be able to make it happen. I mean, when we think about the way that the collective needs to come together, I think it's it's also looking at it from a different level to a certain extent, rather than it's one level removed from the actual production execution of things. It's also looking at the overarching storytelling building element, like where it starts from to where it goes to, and how you all come together from the ideation all the way through to getting it out. And then the production, where the crew comes together, happens in that production sort of step. And yeah, I think that as a result, that sort of mindset is already ingrained, but then it's also trying to bring it to another level of working one step removed in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah. Production companies have that has always been one of the strengths. It's I wouldn't say it's labor intensive, but it takes a lot of bodies to get the job done on the day, and that kind of brings the community. You have no choice but to have a strong ties, which is great. Agencies don't have that. Agencies, haven't relied on that. That's why you can leave an agency today and then end up at the next place the next week, and it's business as usual, right?
Yeah.
You just have to put on a different hat.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we've sort of actually, maybe this one last thing then to this. Is there any advice on what do we do during this? I mean, I think you've already answered it. Even though there's fragmentation, you guys are still relying on each other, because you realize individual strength isn't sometimes enough, and you need to utilize what's around you. But overall, is there any advice to this from a production community point of view?
I think it's finding ways to share information. I think that this is a movement. This is ongoing discussion, and I think it's hitting a lot of different people in different industries as well. Is how to move from the offline, from the online to the offline, so the in-person kind of community. How do you share resources, share information? We were talking about this a few weeks ago about how the way that we used to share information was after work. You grab a beer, you go to an industry event or whatnot, and that's not happening as often or as naturally or as organically as it used to, except now maybe with everybody going back to the office, with all these companies that have policies of going back to office, maybe it'll come back again. But yeah, I think it's happening less. So that sort of organic, sort of natural, hey, what are you doing? Let's catch up over a beer after work since you're in the neighborhood, hasn't been happening as much, right? So you have to make a more of an effort to reach out to the community, reach out to people that you know, and that's not always easy. So that's the question of the hour is what's the best way to build a community without having it be just some other buzzword or WhatsApp group, whatnot. You know, it's just let's make it something that we can rely on and work together. Yeah.
Okay. I think we covered all of the things. Thank you so much for that. I hope some of those things were not too surprising, and that was kind of the reason I wanted to know a little bit more about them. I think it's helpful. It builds a nice story, and I'll build this into clips. Okay. So this second to last topic, 10 minutes of you. So this is something where I try to tell guests, you get to surprise me in some ways, but it's also to whoever might be listening, or when I create clips for this eventually, that they can take something away from you. So take it away. Who is Esther Lussier besides some French Canadian who's married to a Singaporean guy?
That's reducing my life to two small things, but important things. Yes, sure. Important things in my identity. So one of the fun things that I have been working on and having fun with the last couple of years, no, last 5 years actually, is that I actually run an animation festival that happens once a year in around October. So funny enough, the co-founder of the festival, she had reached out to me when I was working at my previous company. She wanted us to sponsor the festival, and unfortunately this didn't work out. But then once I had left that company that I had worked real hard and given my blood, sweat, and tears, lived and breathed that, I was like, okay, now I've got some time and I want to do something fun. And so I ran into her one time and I said, hey, so if you need any help on the festival, I'd love to join. That was in 2019. And now this is the 6th year that I'm going to be working on the festival. And basically the project lead and the producer of the festival, essentially, looking after a lot of the content that gets created and all that.
Where are your contributors coming from? Where are the contributors for this festival coming from?
Yeah,
are they just Singapore, APAC, beyond? How does it work?
International and Singapore. So Cartoons Underground is the name of the festival, and we are animation that's not for kids. It's it's underground. It's risque. It's like tackling different types of different styles, artsy stuff, some dark, some comedy, you know. So we have an international program, and we have some amazing filmmakers that have submitted from Singapore and internationally that have gone on to win BAFTAs and that have been working on big productions in Netflix and things like that. So it's actually quite cool to have unearthed a lot of these filmmakers. And so we also work really closely with Singapore students, so Singapore animation students. So one of the programs is a Singapore student-only program, which then all are in competition to win the Golden Durian Award, which is a lovely durian statue for best film in the international category and in the local student film. We've got ambitions this year, we were looking at bringing the festival to other parts of the world. So we're looking at bringing it to the UK, to other parts in Asia. So we had a partner screening with an animation festival in Bali last year. This year, we'd love to bring it to Thailand. You know, who knows, maybe North America as well. So that's been a really fun thing to kind of to work on, that's connected to the storytelling, to creative, but that is also just really fun, and get to work with different people and discover new stories and new styles, and that's been really great.
Have you never dabbled in sorry?
Go on. What's your question?
Have you never dabbled in documentary stuff? Because I know you're really interested in that aspect of content.
For in the festival, not for this.
In general, Esther.
In general, Esther. This is the area that I want to do more work in now. I think I've been so focused in a lot of my work to work on behalf of clients, rather than, you know, developing stories, finding new people to collaborate with, as directors, writers, and different groups that have stories to tell. So that's actually been what I'm looking to do more of now. So other than that, I also have a Vitamin Change is a company that I have founded and that I'm working on as well. And this one is it's a creative for impact, essentially. It's impact organizations, big or small, and looking at storytelling that are around themes of sustainability, social impact, humanitarian. You know, there's lots of different stories that I want to be able to tell. They're not all my stories. That's the thing. They're not my stories. They're other stories that deserve to be told. So that's what I'm hoping to do and spend more time on this year, is to find some wonderful stories, find creatives that have those stories, find people, connect with people that have amazing stories and spaces, that will help them get the word out, build awareness, get some funding, change policies, you know, those kinds of really good stuff that comes from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up the Adult Swim version of, well, Cartoons Underground. I'm gonna check out what you guys. That's down my alley. Definitely, that's my thing. Okay, very last part of the chat. Thank you so much for doing this so far. I always like to wrap up with guests by asking them, because the page is called 7 Ideas. It's about 7 people that you think would be great to do something like this. At the end of the day, this is about community building. It's not an ad agency thing. It's a creative industry thing, production included, photography, all the rest of it. So could you give me 7 people that you think would fit quite nicely? These are people you know. It can be the Dalai Lama or someone like that who would be inspirational to have a conversation with. Someone you would know directly that you think would help build this network that I'm trying to do here with building this creative community that we should talk to next.
Sure. So, well, the first easy one that comes to mind is Julian Chung, who is my partner in life and in crime. He's a photographer, a very talented one at that. So I would say definitely him. The next person I have in mind is my friend Vicky Chen, who is she works in programmatic, and she's starting her own business in ad sales. But she has a very creative take on life, and I think she'd be a great person to chat with. The next person I'm thinking about is a guy called Dan O'Connor, who runs a music festival. Well, Stan and a bunch of other people that are part of the team. But anyway, him and the team run music events. He's part of a music collective. I started a music festival here in Singapore. He's also a partner at a really great cocktail bar here also in Singapore. And generally a nice fellow. So kind of like the creative, the events, the music, that space. It's kind of fun. Okay, one other person I can think of is somebody that I have met in the last couple of years who is also a producer. She has produced 2 of her own animation films. Actually, one of them is in the works. Her name is Olivia Griselda. She's a nice, she's Indonesian, living in, no, I'm not sure if she's Indonesian or Singaporean. But anyway, she's based here in Singapore, and all around really nice person. Another interesting person I can think of at the moment is this woman that I'm working with on a couple of art projects, actually. So her name is Natalie Seisler. She's a designer. She started out.
What's her last name?
Seisler.
Okay, I'm gonna get this.
SFER. Yeah, I'll let you know. She's a designer. She started. No, when I met her, she had just left a company doing packaging design, and she's now having her own. She's running her own design company, but also very active in the sustainability and systems change and regenerative space. So it's like a very interesting take. And one of the projects that I've been working on with her is we're curating an art segment of a corporate sustainability event. So we're bringing the heart and the art of sustainability to this event. So we're going to have some film screenings, some artist talks, and stuff like that coming up later this year. So yes, good thing to speak with. What is that? 6? 5?
5. Yeah, 5 on my side here. Yeah. Okay. I mean, okay. It's fine if you can always give me a few more names if you think of them later on. I'm going to bug you anyway. But if you have something off the top of your head, I'm happy to write it down.
That's all I can think of right now. I had 3 written down. I came up with 2 more, and let's see. I'm sure I've got somebody else, but I can't think of anyone.
I'll bug you. We'll take it offline. Thank you for that. Look, I really appreciate it. I know it wasn't too much notice. We'll only be talking about this for a couple of weeks, but look, I really appreciate it. It's part of trying to build this community through areas that are not just in advertising, not just in marketing, not just in production. A buddy of mine who was on the call earlier, he's from the media side of things. He's actually on my whiteboard. I got to talk to him. It's just about building that network together. We don't talk enough to each other, and certainly since the pandemic, we've lost ties. You and I have personally lost some ties because, as you mentioned earlier, those Club Street beer sessions are no longer around. And
yeah, the street doesn't even close anymore. They've taken off that. Yeah.
Anyways, look, I appreciate that. Let your hubby know that I'm going to be bugging him sometime soon as well, since you have volunteered his name at the very top. So yeah, I'll talk to him as well. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for thinking of me. Thanks for asking me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, take care. Have a great Sunday, and thanks. I'll be in touch soon.
Sounds good. Chat soon. Bye.
Bye, guys. See ya.